Hi, I'll show you how to replace a fuel pump assembly for a motorcycle. You don't need to take off the fuel tank. My bike is a 2014 KTM 500 EXC with 11,000 miles on it. But these instructions should be good for other KTM bikes too. For several months, it slowly lost 10% of its power, and in the last week, it lost a significant amount of power. The F1 fuel pump light should go on and then off in about 3 seconds when you turn on the ignition. Instead, the F1 light blinked 4 long and 1 short. The shop manual confirmed that the fuel pump was not pumping gas up to the normal pressure. I could hear the fuel pump humming for a few seconds, so the electric motor could be okay, but not the mechanical part of the pump. I checked all the fuses and they were okay. A replacement pump assembly costs $80 at Amazon. You also need to find or buy a short fat screw, maybe a 1/4 inch or maybe 5/16 inch thread diameter, about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch long, and 4 feet of string. This is an electric pump that is inside the gas tank. So ask yourself, if you trust your abilities to safely replace this pump, or would you rather trust a minimum wage mechanic at a motorcycle shop? The fuel tank could explode if done wrong. Take the seat off, disconnect the battery. Lay on your back and look under the gas tank. On a KTM, there are 2 odd-looking nuts. The front one is flat, 1 inch in diameter. The back one connects the fuel line. Get a bucket to catch the gas as it drains. Undo the odd KTM hose clamp that connects the fuel line. When I reattach the fuel line, I use a standard hose clamp from Home Depot. Unscrew the flat nut first and let the gas drain into your bucket. Then disconnect the fuel line and take off that rearmost nut. Check the O-rings so that you know what they look like, their position, and whether they need to be replaced. The other end of the fuel pump assembly is the back plate near the battery. It has a large square O-ring. Check it on the new fuel pump assembly to make sure it's in its groove. Now, at the back of the tank, near the battery, disconnect the small electric wire bundle clip. Then there are 4 bolts holding this square plate onto the back of the fuel tank. The top 2 can be unscrewed using a small socket wrench, but for the bottom 2 bolts, you'll have to use a small box end wrench. Now look under the tank again. Take your short fat screw and screw it moderately tight into the aluminum fuel tube sticking out of the bottom of the tank. Tie a 4-foot long piece of string to the screw. Pull the old fuel pump assembly out of your fuel tank, pulling the string along with it. Unscrew the string and screw it into the new fuel pump assembly. It's your guide. Don't screw it in too tight or you'll score or crack the aluminum tube. Check the electric clip connectors on the new fuel pump to make sure they're tight and won't vibrate off on a bumpy road, which could cause a spark inside your fuel tank. Before you slide the new fuel pump into the tank, look at the 2 aluminum tubes at the front end of the assembly. Are they in a north-south position? If they are hanging east-west, you have to rotate the back plate counterclockwise at least 90 degrees to get them to rotate north-south, so they line up with the bolt holes in the bottom of the tank. If there are 2 plastic tie strings bundling the assembly together, you might have to cut the forward plastic tie strings so the wires and the tubes easily rotate and align north-south. Now slide the new fuel pump assembly into the tank, pointing it at the left side of the tank. Support it with your left hand. Make sure you don't catch anything on the fuel tank square hole as you slide it in. You don't want to partially pull any of those wires off the clip that they're attached to. The fuel pump assembly is limp and flexible, so it should drop down toward the holes at the bottom of the tank. Lay down, look up at the holes. Use your string to pull it into alignment with the holes. Use a small Phillips screwdriver to also help guide the threaded aluminum fuel tubes into the holes. You can also tap on the side of the tank to get the fuel pump to drop down. If you can get the nut on the front one, screw it loosely into place and then work on the other tube to get it in its hole. Then unscrew your string, get that second nut on the rear threaded tube, and screw both nuts tight, but not too tight. Your O-rings seal the tank, and the tank is plastic, so you can tighten it up fairly tight, but don't crank the wrench too much. You could crack the plastic tank or split the rubber O-rings. After 100 miles, check to make sure the front nut is coming loose. Attach the fuel line. The back tube nut can't vibrate loose because the fuel line is attached to it. Screw your 4 back plate bolts back in. The bolts are going into plastic, so tighten them, but not too tight, or you can strip the threads. Attach your electric power bundle wire clip. Connect the battery. Pour about 2 quarts of gas back into the left side of the tank. You can tip the bike onto its left side, then back upright to get all the gas into the left side of the tank. Then I put the gas cap on loosely. For my safety, I put on all my leathers, my helmet, goggles, and gloves, then turned on the key. The fuel pump hummed. The pump is self-priming and should pump up to the normal fuel pressure in about 5 seconds. The F1 light goes on, then off. It shouldn't be blinking anymore. Fire extinguisher nearby, gear in neutral, stand by the side of the bike and press the start button, ready to dive away if the 2 quarts of gas ignites. I was happy when my bike started right up, and it had more power going up hills than it had had in a year. I drove the KTM on bumpy roads for about 100 miles with a half-full fuel tank before I trusted the new fuel pump enough to fill up the tank all the way. Do it yourself, and you'll probably save about $500.